A shell and tube heat exchanger isn't one pressure vessel, it's two, sharing a single shell, separated by one incredibly complex plate. That plate is the tube sheet, and it gets its own entire part. Welcome back to ASME Section 8 Division 1 in 5 minutes. Season 3, Episode 8, Heat Exchanger Tube Sheet Design. Part UHX covers the minimum design, fabrication, and inspection requirements for shell and tube heat exchangers, hundreds or thousands of tubes running through drilled holes in a single thick plate, the tube sheet, that has to hold back two completely different pressures on either face while barely deflecting under either one. Every other part of the exchanger follows standard rules you already know. The tube sheet is where this part actually earns its complexity. And here's the discovery: tube sheet design itself now points entirely to Division 2, Part 4.18. Division 1's own tube sheet equations are gone from this part, replaced by a direct instruction to use Division 2's methodology instead. This isn't optional borrowing for one tricky component anymore. For tube sheets specifically, Division 2 is now the default, mandatory path, full stop. Table UHX 1.1 exists specifically to crosswalk between the two, showing exactly where Division 2 governs and where Division 1's own rules still apply instead. This is the third time this season Division 1 has leaned on Division 2 this heavily, and it names the exact same mechanism directly. Whenever a UHX paragraph, table, or graph gets referenced, the applicable Division 2 section applies in accordance with UG 16 and Mandatory Appendix 46, Episode 1's topic, cited by name again. Appendix 46 started as a special case tool. By this point in the code, it's practically infrastructure. But it's not a wholesale handoff. Except for the tube sheet, every other element of the heat exchanger, shells, heads, most nozzles, follow standard Division 1 rules from subsections A and D, the exact material you've built up across 3 seasons. And Table UHX 1.1's cross-reference list shows specific exceptions even within Division 2 territory. Jacketed vessels still route to Division 1's Part UJV, and bolted flanges still route to Mandatory Appendix 2, straight back to Season 2, Episode 4. One more detail worth knowing: a heat exchanger's nameplate isn't one set of numbers. Marking follows UG 116 from Episode TWN of Season 1, but with a specific rule for combination units. Shell side and tube side each get their own MAWP and design temperature, clearly separated, sometimes abbreviated as shell and tubes, sometimes as S&T with qualifiers like LT for lethal service on the tube side. 2 pressure boundaries, 1 nameplate, both fully documented. Quick recap: Part UHX governs shell and tube heat exchangers, but tube sheet design itself is now entirely Division 2, Part 4.18, invoked through Mandatory Appendix 46 from Episode 1. Everything except the tube sheet stays standard Division 1, and the nameplate has to separately mark both the shell side and tube side. That's Season 3, Episode 8. Full cross-reference table is linked below on WeldFab World. Subscribe. Episode 9 covers non-mandatory Appendix D and internal structures.